trying to make chicken salad out of chicken shit, and it was just awful.
I've turned chicken salad into chicken shit. I will continue to do so.
Here I was, blaming AEW for feeding you chicken shit, knowing you mindless millennials would be eating it up as if it were chicken salad, when it's really been your fault all along.
Make chicken salad out of chicken shit. People is as people does, that's all there is to it. But a square peg in a round hole just never seems to fit. And you
This is Bianca Belair.
Hey, this is Kevin Owens.
Hey, it's Seth freaking Rollins.
It is the man, Becky Lynch.
Rhea Ripley here, and you're listening to Wrestle Radio Australia.
Welcome everyone to your longest running Australian wrestling podcast. This is Wrestle Radio Australia. Once again, I know I'm doing these more often because I'm kind of in the mood to do them, and I like to talk to people that I want to get to know. And this is a guy that I've known for a while, but really only online. Haven't really met him before. We've only just chatted back and forth on the old Instas and stuff like that. If you've listened to this show for more than a year, you'll know how much of a fan I was of the tag team Backpain. And one member of Backpain, now on his own, Backman, thank you so much for joining us, mate. Well, not really on your own, but away from Backpain.
Away from Backpain, with Rookie South, one half of the regime. Get it right, Toddy.
Sorry, mate. Sorry, I'm flustered. I told you I was flustered coming into this. So daylight saving is kicking my ass.
Mate, but it looks at you, it looks like everything kicks your ass. So, you should be used to that by now.
That's fair. Well, I am an old man, so that's why I manage people to do that for me. I'm not dumb here. I just put people in front of them.
Mate, I saw pictures of you in the ring the other week on one of your Instagram posts, and mate, you should never put wrestling gear on ever again.
Brother, I'm 48. What do you want? Come on. I'm fighting time as well as the opponent here.
Mate, if I look that bad at 48, I'll second guess myself.
All right, well, I'll talk to you next year. Anyway, enough of that, mate. I've been a fan of yours for a while, but I'd only really heard of you until sort of you'd broken into like PWA, because you don't get to see a lot of stuff when you're not living in the same state. So yeah. The first thing I think I heard about you was like Wrestling Go and stuff like that. Where did you actually start training?
Jesus Christ. Yeah, Wrestling Go was another thing. So I actually first started training towards the back end of 2012. So I used to live in Canberra when I was at university over there. So I just Googled pro wrestling in Canberra. And then I saw Mikey Broderick and Lightning Luke Watts' photo up along there. I gave the number a call. I think Mikey picked up. He's like, "What do you want, mate?" I'm like, "Oh, I just want to start wrestling." Yeah, come over Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever. Just come. And that's where it started. Literally just walked in one day at a boxing gym, and there was a wrestling in the corner. I was like, "Holy shit, this is pretty cool." I was roughly about 18 at the time as well, so I feel that was a good time for me.
Mate, at least you actually had a wrestling ring and not just a boxing ring. Because I know for a while there, a couple of the boys up here, the only thing we could train in, because the school we'd had been shut down, was a boxing ring, and just taking the bumps in that, nightmare.
Well, the wrestling ring didn't last very long for that. So we eventually had a boxing ring roughly about 3 months after I started training there. Because, I think the school that we're at, it was more of a sort of mixed martial arts sort of boxing gym. And I don't think they wanted to look at the pro wrestling gym just right there in the corner. So they sort of just shoved us to the side. They put us downstairs, like, "Oh, you guys can train the mats downstairs. Then occasionally we'll let you into the boxing ring, like whenever the boxers aren't there, essentially."
Yeah.
But I've had plenty of matches with Luke Watts in a boxing ring before, and every ring I'm just grateful for now.
Yeah, see, that's the hard thing. Like Canberra, I kind of equate a little bit to what Queensland gets thing for wrestling. Not so much nowadays, but back in the day, it was sort of like with like New South Wales and in Adelaide and in Melbourne, there were fairly established like wrestling companies. So the word sort of gets around town that they're fairly like established, and not so much you don't get that bloody it's not real, right? Any time you talk about it to them, whereas up here and in Canberra it would have been back in the day. It's not real, really? Oh no, right? So
not necessarily that. It's just, I don't know if you're around. You've probably been around. You've been around for a while, so you know the history of it. Like PWA used to have this thing in Queensland, used to have this thing like Adelaide, had a thing in Canberra as well as PWAC. And I came in roughly when the very last 2 shows of PWAC happened. And then they just stopped doing shows because they drew too low of a crowd. And then they're like, there was really no motivation to do any more shows after that. But then you got those, unfortunately, Canberra used to have this massive stink on them because, with all due respect, we used to have like a lot of shit cunts just have their own promotion on the side and just give wrestling like a really bad name. So it was just treated as a joke for a long time there.
Mate, I'm in Queensland. I know what you mean. I moved from Adelaide to Queensland, and that's what it was like when I first moved up here. So I know exactly what that's about. So you ended up doing that. So was it sort of like you had to wait till you'd finished uni then to go down to move back home before you sort of got back into a wrestling company, or were you sort of traveling to do that, or after the war?
Well, I lived in Canberra for roughly about 6 years. So I actually stopped wrestling for roughly about 2.5, 3 years prior because I just wanted to concentrate on uni. I wanted to concentrate on my girlfriend at the time. And I was doing a few bodybuilding comps as well. That was like, and plus around 2014, 2015, wrestling wasn't really doing much in Australia at that time as well. So I was just like, there's no reason for me to come back to it. And then I remember watching a random show, I think it was an IWA show, and it drew like 500 people. I was like, fuck, people are actually coming to this now. This is actually pretty cool. So that's where I slowly got myself back into the wrestling scene. And I just started making the travels around 2017.
And I suppose you kind of, not so much lucky, but you're sort of like blessed with size, but then you've also went and like you obviously worked out as well, saying that you're still doing bodybuilding. And I guess when you're coming in with guys like Mikey Broderick, you're sort of like, you kind of want to look in good shape, don't you?
Oh yeah, like it's the same with like Mick Murray down here as well. Like if you're having a photo op and you're standing next to someone like Mikey Broderick, someone like Mick Murray, you want to look good next to him. You don't want to be like, oh shit, who's that in the middle there?
But yeah, it's you really sort of like I said, you've sort of been floating around wrestling, going all that stuff that I'd seen. When did you sort of make the jump to like PWA? Was it through like Newey Pro, or was it just because I know that a lot of time that's sort of like a pipeline.
No, so I was strictly just in Canberra. I was dating this girl for a very long time, and she hated wrestling. She hated every time that I would go down to show. She hated that I was away a few weekends, and every time I said, "Oh, I'm going to go away this weekend," she would burst into tears, and she was just madly in love with me. So I had to end it, of course, because I fell in love with wrestling, not her. So I ended it with her, moved out. And then I just essentially moved to Sydney the very next week. And that was around the start of 2019, roughly. And then I just rocked up to the training academy. It was one random Monday. I was like, I wrestle. Can I train here? And they're like, yeah, sure, why not? And that's essentially how it is.
Which really dispels the myth about, because a lot of time there was, for a little while there was sort of a myth about PWA sort of being like a little bit elitist, and you have to do this to get into the thing like that. But then you hear all these stories about guys that just rock up and have a training session, like especially with Robbie, because I know Robbie wants to help everybody that rocks in the door.
And before I started PWA, I heard those stories that PWA is elitist, blah blah blah. And honestly, those are just from people that can't hack it. Those from people that can't do 50 push-ups. Those are people that don't want to get in shape. Those are for people that are happy where Australian wrestling was back then. They don't want to see it succeed. They just want to be like, I'm just going to have fun with my mates. We don't want that. So if you work hard and if you show the dedication, then you're going to be accepted. And I think that goes with everywhere in life, honestly.
Yeah, very much. It's like you're yeah. If you put in, you'll get out as much as you put into it. If you're just happy for it to be a weekend thing, then don't expect to get any further in it than being a weekend thing, really, isn't it? That's kind of the case.
Absolutely.
So you've excuse me, you went from that to like you sort of float around with, and back pain is really where you sort of broke into the main card of PWA. How did that come apart? Because I know that like Jack was from a sort of a different area as well. I believe he came from like suplex. So that's like a totally different sort of like breaking in from. It
is, yeah. But he actually started AWF, and I think a lot of guys started AWF. So he had like Jack Payne, Donnie Mako, I think Lucci, Jack Stewart, Jordan, all those guys were AWF for a little bit.
Yeah, Lucci and Kai, I remember at AWF.
Yeah, so there you go. And obviously they soon realized how shit it was there, and they make the jump. So.
I remember seeing this is years and years ago. I saw Lucci and Kai came up to do a show up here, and I think they'd just been fresh from coming back from Lance Storms, so they really didn't know much about like Australian wrestling at all. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we train with Greg at AWF." I was like, "Where do you live?" They're like Sydney. I said, "Why aren't you training at like PWA or Newey Pro?" Like, what do you mean? I said, well, call Conco or something like that. And they were working out, who's Conco? I'm like, oh, guys, no, no.
That's the thing. But the information wasn't there. So, like, how were you to know? Like, nowadays, if anyone wants to start training, like, you just search up pro wrestling anyway in New South Wales, and PWA is the first one that comes up, which, thank God.
Yeah. See, it used to be a thing where, like if you wanted to train, you really had to want to train to find somewhere to train.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, get scanned of like a couple $1,000, and then, you know, you're still a shit wrestler.
Yeah. It's like for people at home that are looking into getting into wrestling, and I know it's easy to find somewhere to train nowadays, but like I highly encourage you to do your homework. Do your homework on the trainers there. Do your homework on just if it's a training facility that's tied to a company, go and watch a show. Because that's your best measure of knowing what the wrestling is like. Is you go and watch a show and you can see what the guys that are training are like. That's what happened with and work out, yes. But that's what happened with me in Adelaide. I went to a couple of shows. I went to a Snake Pit show, then I went to a 01, which is Rampage Now show, and I went to a Riot City show. And Riot City was the one that sort of called to me. And the guy at the time that I was hanging out with is Big Brody Marshall, and the two of us decided together this is the place for us, because it felt right for us, which is different for everyone else, and that's what the beauty of wrestling is. Like, some people sort of tend to like that New Japan style more, some people tend to like the other style more, some people tend to like Riot City style. I liked Riot City style more, so that's why I ended up going and training there. It was like, I still say to this day, it was the best decision I ever made, because I made friends. I've done this for 14 years. I never thought I would in my life be doing this for this long. So, and I guess that you're the same. Like, after you took those first couple of bumps in that ring up in Canberra, you just thought, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm meant to be sort of doing.
Well, it was the bumps. Everyone has like horror stories of their first bumps and things like that. For me, it was actually quite easy, because I did judo for about 11 years before I moved over to pro wrestling. So I knew how to fall down. I knew how to do a break fall, or a bump, as they call it. And I got my black belt in judo. And I was like, I never want to do this judo ever again, because I hated the training. And I always, they were working me to the ground. They're doing like 5 days a week. Like, after school, I was doing my HSC as well. It was the most stressful part of my life, honestly. But then I went to the pro wrestling training. It's like, oh, this is actually quite a breeze compared to like doing all the judo stuff.
So how did it come about that you and Jack had gotten together as a team? Was it like you were just training together and sort of like worked on it, or did PWA come up to you? It's like, you two are two big guys, we have an idea, and adding Jesse and stuff like that?
So what happened was, I think this is just before lockdown was happening. Like the first lockdown was happening. Like Jack had just came over to do a bit of training session, roughly about 6-7 months after me, and we did a few training spots together. And I was like, oh, hey, this is pretty cool. And actually, Nui Pro were the ones that like had the idea of putting us together. And the person that told us the news was none other than Grayson Waller. He just pulled me aside one day after training. He's like, man, you guys, you've been doing such a good job along here. I think Nui Pro wants to start doing, a tag team with you two, call yourselves Backman or something like that. Obviously can't something much better than that, but like you two together, two big monsters, like, it's going to go good. It's going to go really good. Then, one day you'll be on PWA with this and, you guys will be so good. And then lockdown happened. So then we were pretty much that conversation happened in like February, whatever it was. And then we didn't get the team until roughly about August that year. But I messaged the powers of be a PWA along here because I was originally teaming with Silvio. And it was meant to be me and Silvio against Matt Boynton and Jude London. But then Silvio, like, he got injured or something like that. So I just put forward, hey, how about Jack Payne? He's been training for X amount of months. We're going to think about starting a tag team anyways. And then essentially they came back, who's Jack Payne? I was like, fuck. So I then explained to him, like, he's been training with us for X amount of months. Trust me, like, he's going to be good. He's going to be good for the show. And then we had that match there, and it was good. Everyone was loving it backstage, and then we just went forward with it.
It reminded me, like, the first time I saw you guys come out, and it's a team that not a lot of people will think of when you think of teams. But I was actually a really big fan of the tag team Chronic in WCW.
Oh, yes, I know. Yeah.
And you guys reminded me of those two. Just had that same, like, you're both the same sort of size as each other, but you're both monsters. But you're both monsters that could move as well, which is like, it's kind of a rare thing. I know it sounds weird to say, but it's kind of a rare thing to be big and be agile as well. And you guys both had that together. So, like, going from that to putting Jesse with you, what was the move to put Jesse with you as a sort of your manager / third member?
All right, so it was lockdown again. I think it was like the second lockdown, whatever it was. So it's just that seems to be the current theme of this, honestly.
Yeah.
So we had like a sort of meeting with the head booker at the time along there, and we heard inklings that were like going to be paired with other people. Like, I heard rumors that we're going to be like Mick Moretti's heavies. I heard rumors that we're going to be Lucci's heavies, which I was more keen for that because he was on that amazing run back in the day. And even Lucci looked at me, he's like, you better get some brown gear, mate. I was like, oh, fuck yeah, this is going to be sick. And then the promoter then said, so do you know this gym bro that's been training with us? And I knew exactly who she was. Because obviously I was at the academy 3 days a week, so I've seen her come up. Great character, great person. Like, honestly, she's one of my good friends to this day. But I remember initially they were like, "Oh, and we want to put you up with like Jim Bro along here." In my head, I just went, "Fuck," because we wanted to be like attached to Lucci. We want to sort of be hitch our wagon to someone's already established, and then break up on our own. So at that time, I felt like shit, like. Where me and Jack essentially being used as a tool to help bring Jimbo into the scene, which we were hesitant at the very start because we were like, fuck. And they wanted us to lean more towards just being dumb cunts as well, which I was more than happy to do. I'm still, to this day, I'm like, fuck, all the stuff we were able to do, even the stuff we pitched that didn't get greenlit was just like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. But we were paired to Jim Bro. There was a bit of a teething period along there. I probably wouldn't say until roughly about a year in with Jim Bro. That's where at least I finally understood, like, all right, cool. I understand what back pain is. I understand what the promoter wants from back pain, and I'm going to give them that.
Yeah, because I remember when I first saw you guys, I think I even said on the show, I was like, this is a team that I would love to manage but it would have been a totally different team to what you guys ended up being with Jesse because of just the way Jesse's character is and you guys taking the pre and all of that sort of stuff before before the matches and stuff like that. When did you guys realize that it was sort of like working in front of the crowd?
Like how was it working from the crowd?
Like, when did you realize that the crowd were really starting to get behind you guys as a unit?
I'd probably say once I got back from America. I just noticed that I was doing these little minor things that all the crowd was catching on to. And then I feel like when we were going through the premiership last year, every single time it came out, we got the biggest reaction. We got the back pain chant going, and everyone was super behind us. I was like, "Fuck yes, this is it. They're going to hitch the wagon to us. This is going to be our year. This is going to be fucking sick." But then, unfortunately, I legitimately herniated 2 discs in my back. I couldn't make it to the premiership final along there, and just plans change.
So how was that coming back from like 2 herniated discs? Because I've had one before in my life, and that wasn't cool. So I can't imagine having 2 of those suckers.
It sucked. It wasn't like the discs. That wasn't the worst part. It was all the muscles around it just tightening, and I was legit. I could not move out of bed for like 2 weeks.
Jeez.
So I can tell you how it happened. So I was doing like this Comic-Con show for Nui Pro in Gosford, and I was in the ring with Frankie B. And I went to pick her up, went to give her a fireman's carry. Then all of a sudden, boom, everything just went numb. I was like, oh, fuck.
Wow.
So I dropped her down. I rolled out of the ring. I was like, I'm done. I'm absolutely done. And then I had to do the long drive back. Luckily, I wasn't driving. Someone else was driving me. And then, it took me about half an hour just to get up my stairs, just to get back and lay on the floor.
Yeah, because I remember when I had mine, it was something where like I couldn't do anything for more than 20 minutes without having to lie down. Because I remember having to call my mum because we had a house inspection coming up. And she thought I was putting it on just so I wouldn't have to clean the house. I was like, can you please come over? I can't.
Very good timing. Very good.
Yeah,
timing.
very good timing.
Oh no, this was bad because like I knew I was laying in bed. I was like, all right, I got to roll over. I was like hyping myself up for 20 minutes just to roll over on the bed. That's how bad it got.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, like we got on the phone to the doctor. Me and my partner at the time, and she was a nurse, so she was just like, he needs codeine like right now. And then boom, I got codeine and I was fine. I was able to walk. I was able to do roughly about 50% of what I used to do. And then it was great timing as well because we had a trip to the UK planned. So I was on the plane with 2 herniated discs, just pumping codeine every like 4 or 5 hours.
God. So what was the recovery time on that before you sort of like were like 100% again?
Honestly, like it was roughly about 2 months. It wasn't long at all. Like honestly, I could have done the premiership match, but it was just like to be on the safe side. I was like, I'll give it like another month just to be on the safe side because no wrestling match. Yeah, no wrestling match is going to be worth not being able to walk.
No, I always tell that about the boys nowadays. They always want to come because everyone doesn't want to disappoint people. They want to do stuff like, look, it's not worth like you not being able to work. It's not worth you not being able to do stuff for the next 6 weeks just because you want to do 10 minutes in front of like 300 people. It's not worth that in the long run. We can work other things out. You're going to get your spot. You're going to get your chance again. Don't go hurting yourself in the long term. It's like long term like setback for short term gain. So it was smart idea, smart move to make sure you cherry it right before you came back.
Yeah,
and then
So I was just going to say, plus I was very happy to sort of pass that moment on to Jim Bro as well, because she'd been training so hard. She honestly, I still think she's probably one of the best characters that PWA's had in a while. That until Tuckman came along. And I feel like she deserved like just one spotlight for one night, and she did so well in that match. I was so proud of her.
Yeah, she did. She's been doing really well over at Slam as well. And when I've seen her on those shows, she's doing really well.
she's absolutely killing it over there. Like, you know, I knew she would. I know the Canberra people, that I knew they'll gravitate towards that. So, yeah, absolutely happy for her.
And then you guys sort of came to sort of an abrupt end, because I remember messaging you straight after going, what's going on here? Because you were sort of traveling along quite well, and then all of a sudden it's like, obviously Jack sort of wanted to move on to other things, and that's why you ended, I believe.
It was along there. We were a bit disheartened the way the sort of premiership ended along there as well, because we really thought like this was the launching pad for us. And then, you know, just, you know, life happens, things change, plans change, stuff like that. And then, you know, felt like, at least I felt like, I know Jack felt it as well, I really felt we were really underappreciated. And Jack lived in Canberra at the time, and he's just like, I don't want to travel all this way just to, you know, come down and then, you know, not fulfill the potential that we have, essentially. And he was planning to, I think he was planning to become a cop or something like that. So he wanted to concentrate on that. I was like, brother, like, you know, that's fine. If I feel the same way. I feel like this last year was great for us, but I feel like we sort of hit our ceiling in PWA a little bit. So then we just decided,
I remember being quite vocal, at least on the podcast, about like, it's like, oh, this was the team. This is the guys that they could have done. And like, I remember talking to you about it as well. And you were just like, hey, it is what it is. It's like, it was almost like you'd sort of come to terms with it by then, I guess, by the time we'd started like talking about it. But like on a downside, like it was a downside because you guys sort of like had to break up, but it really was sort of a coming out party for you on that week. Because that was last Colosseum?
Yeah, that would have been last year at Colosseum.
Yeah. So that gave you, really did give you sort of like, you got to work both nights, because you did the first night where you guys broke up. Then you did the second night where you sort of like, it was like you did a whole angle in the space of 2 days.
Yeah. And I remember because like everyone had sort of like a booking meeting before Colosseum, like, all right, this is what we're planning for Colosseum. Like, do you have any suggestions, blah, 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 things like that. And then we mentioned that, like, oh yeah, Jack's thinking about sort of hanging him up, like, you know, before the end of the year. And they were like, oh, when are you thinking of doing it? He was just like, oh, you know, like I can do after Colosseum if need be, but like honestly, like sooner rather than later, but end of the year, start next year, whatever it is. And then they came with the idea. It's like, all right, well, what if we do the breakup in the tag gauntlet, and then you guys have a blow off match the next night? And we're like, fuck, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. The only thing I wish we would have changed, I wish we would have done like a falls count anywhere as opposed to like a last man standing. Because yeah, like you don't realize how many casual fans sort of come in to these shows, especially like around Colosseum, and they're just like, why are they sort of counting when they're both down, and then all of a sudden they're not counting? It's like, I feel like a visual pinfall would have been a lot better, but we're very happy with the match. We're still very happy. Getting speed off the stage, that sucked. That absolutely sucked. But I was prepping myself all day. I was like, this is gonna suck. This is gonna suck. Then it happened. I was like, oh, thank fuck, that's over. But I swear to God, I thought he broke my leg, because all his weight, all Jack's leg just landed right on my kneecap. I was like, fuck. And then, but it was fine. It was just a massive cork, so I was fine.
Yeah. The one thing I did notice is that it looked like you felt a hell of a lot more comfortable in a heel role as what you looked like for the last like year or so, being sort of like the babyface back pain team that you were. Is that something you're more comfortable with, sort of like the heel persona rather than the babyface, or?
I wouldn't necessarily say that. Like, I felt like that whole year, last year, I felt like, okay, I finally understand what back pain are as a babyface sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And then that's where I was like, all right, cool. I was coming up with all these crazy ideas. I was like, all right, okay, we can do this, we can do this, we can do that. You know, and I feel like if you're a big guy and you can garner sympathy from the crowd, I feel like you're doing a fucking fantastic job, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially because everyone's going to be smaller than us. Every single one's going to be smaller than us. So if we can get sympathy from the crowd and make them feel sorry for us, Jesus Christ, like that's absolutely money.
Yeah, that's been like something that up here I've been talking to Yeet Stevens about. I'm like, dude, you need to learn how to sell, because it's the hardest thing for a big guy to be able to get across to that crowd. Once you get across that, then like you're halfway home.
Oh, exactly. And like I remember I never watched it. I watched it as a kid, but I obviously didn't watch it live. But I think it was someone like Ted DiBiase got Andre the Giant down the ground and started like either shaving his head or doing something like that. And I actually felt sorry for Andre the Giant. I was like, this guy's like 7'5", 600 pounds. Why am I feeling sorry for him? Yeah. I just remember that moment. I was just like, okay, that's what we need. We need that sort of moment. We need the big guys to like garner sympathy. So yeah. I'll happily beat the shit out of Stevens, by the way.
But yeah, you do seem you seemed very much like from the breakup the night before to the next night, you seemed very comfortable in that heel role. You seemed very like, it was almost like, I don't want to say because it sounds very fucking like very just like cliche, but you seemed like you'd been let off the chain when you walked out there the next night.
Because there was chats about like, oh, like, do you want to be babyface or heel back then? I was just like, oh, well, I know I got this thing of Ricky sort of lined up, so I think being a heel will definitely suit along here. But I'm comfortable with both. Like, if you tell me to do one or the other, like, honestly, it's not going to be anything to me, really. Like, I got all my tropes that I have of being a babyface for so long. But I still find like I haven't found my tropes of being a heel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting to know, because it seemed really natural just watching you out there. Like, wow, he's really natural at this. Seems very comfortable.
I'm also a bully at heart as well. Like, I'll bully my friends. I'll bully our rookies. Do you really think you can do this? And like really just show some harsh truths to someone that, you know, a lot of people need to know the harsh truths as well.
So you said there that you sort of had the thing with Ricky lined up. So was the case that when Jack sort of said, I'm calling it, did they say, well, we have something for you lined up down the line with Ricky? Or was it something where like you thought maybe you'd go singles for a while before maybe going into something else?
No. So like I was talking to Ricky like months before we broke up as well. We were just sort of going back and forth, being like, oh, it'd be cool to sort of start this thing, especially since he just started being a heel and things like that. We were trying to convince Jack to like hang around for one more year and have the force of me, Jack, and Ricky all as one.
Jesus,
which, yeah. Who the fuck's going to stop that? Like, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, that thing was always there because, like, I felt like that tag team premiership, I'll go back to it. Like, I really felt like that was made for us. And like, if we're going to be baby faces, once we sort of capture that tag premiership and then face the Velocities, like we never faced the Velocities 2-on-2, like on a Black Label show. And that's like one of the biggest things. I'm like, fuck, if that would have happened, that would have been like, honestly, that could be match of the year.
Yeah, it would have been a great clash of styles, and the two of you would have been excellent bases for those two to be able to do a lot of their stuff as well. So that would have been it would have been amazing.
Exactly. It would have been like probably not as good as the Aussie Open matches they had, but you know, I reckon it would have been it could have been up
there. So like from teaming with Jack, who you guys were sort of like on the same level in terms of like experience and stuff like that, to now working with someone like Ricky, who is like undoubtedly one of the best in the country. How much are you learning?
He is the best.
Yeah. Well, I think I said a couple of episodes ago, like if I had the money to just start my own national like wrestling company, said Ricky would be the first person I'd bring in as like a cornerstone of that company, because I know he can do everything I need him to do. Like if I need him to be a babyface, he'll go out there and the crowd will love him. If I need him to be a heel, he's proven that he can get some massive heat now. in the
Yeah,
role he's
absolutely.
doing. So how much do you learn just like being around him, like when he's out there? Because I know there's one thing like training together and stuff like that, but you can sometimes learn so much more when you're actually just out in front of a crowd working.
What if I remember saying this to Ricky one of the first times we tagged together, because I used to be the one that came up with like all the moves and like all the ideas for me and Jack. And it was just a bit of a shock to me to like, sort of like, okay, I can take a back seat because Ricky's so much better at this than me. So it's just about realistically just like how to sort of work more as a big man, especially as a heel. Just like, the whole sort of taking your time and like the most important thing that we can get at the moment is heat. Like there's like, what the fuck are we going to do with a flashy move? We want heat.
Yeah. And that's the thing with like, he is one of those guys that like a lot of his work you can't see through. Do you know what I mean? It's like a lot of his work like that looked like it fucking hurt. That's the best thing that a big man heel can do is actually make it look like he's legitimately hurting somebody.
Yeah, and that's what I've sort of like shortened my moveset a little bit. Have like, instead of having like a level 10 difficulty and executing it at 5 execution, have a 5 difficulty and have a level 10 execution. And it just makes everything look so much better.
Yeah. And also with someone like Ricky's a really good promo as well, which is probably like something that just looking at from an outsider's point of view, you haven't really had a lot of chance to do yourself. So is that like something now where it's like, you're like, this is really what I want to learn? Because it's like I always say, it's like tools for the toolbox. You can put as many tools as you got, you can put in that toolbox, the better off you'll be as a overall like tradesman. So is that something where you go to Ricky, like teach me this, because this is what I want to learn?
Yeah, well, he's very good at like on the spot. He can do a promo, one take, 30 seconds. He's good to go. For me, I'm still like, fuck, I need about 5 or 6 takes to nail exactly what it is. And I can see Jack's behind the camera just going, fucking hell, just get it right. And so that's definitely something where I was like towards the back end of back pain, like I was just like, fuck, I can do a promo as a babyface, as a dumb babyface any day of the week. It's now transitioning that into like just being a brute and just being someone's heavy. Because realistically, someone's brute and someone's heavy. It should really be more actions than words, sort of thing. But I still want to put some words behind it.
Yeah, because it helps with building that emotion from a crowd. Like a crowd can not like you because you're beating someone up, but a crowd will dislike you more if they don't like you as a person as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
And Ricky's just a shit human being, so it's so easy to hate him.
So yeah, and that's if you can convince people that you're an asshole in a promo, then like half your battle is won when you're walking through that curtain, because they already don't like me. I just need to reinforce that.
Yeah, exactly. And I just gotta. Hopefully, I can like. I'm just a sponge, really. Just like whenever Ricky sort of says something, even the way he cuts the promos, where he's just like very precise and takes his time in saying the words. And every word has a meaning, stuff like that. It's like, okay, all right. It's like, instead of being this dumb idiot that will do anything as a babyface, I got to then just literally slow it all the way down, take away everything that everyone loved about me as being a part of back pain, and then give them something completely different. Like, I'm still learning that and still coming to terms with that, but it's going to click one day. Like, I know it clicked when I was in back pain.
Yeah. But that also has to be sort of like exciting for you, because you're not really stuck. No, I don't want to say stuck. You're not really like doing the same thing over and over again now, but you're learning, you're growing as a worker. So that's got to be exciting, just for I've never done this before sort of point of view. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure. I wouldn't say it was sort of stuck along there. I would say
no. I know you know what I mean. It's like not so much stuck, but like you're here doing this now, and they're like, okay, now we want you to learn how to do that. Like, it's like if you're doing a job and you're doing that one job every day for like a month, and someone goes, oh, can you go into this department for a day? Because we just need someone over there. It's sort of like, oh, it's like a breath of fresh air to you, like rejuvenates you just a little bit because you're trying something new.
Oh yeah, for sure. It does feel like starting a new job, but like within the same industry as well.
Yeah.
In a different department. Like you're going from like marketing to like being IT or something like that. You're like, okay, how the fuck am I going to navigate this? Then eventually it just takes time while you guys are together, and then it'll eventually all work.
And it's also sort of like a step up in the card, so to speak, because you're with Ricky, who's like a former PWA champion, is in that sort of like that area of the card where like anything he's going to be involved in is sort of like a marquee part of the show, sort of like this weekend coming up at Colosseum. That's got to be good for you to go, okay, I get to try myself up in this level now, especially with what you're doing this weekend.
Absolutely. Like I noticed that as well, because at the beginning of the year we had a tag match at the Crowbar against the Velocities, and that was the first time that I've ever had like put on like be out there for like a 30-minute main event match as well.
Yep.
And I was like, all right, this is where like, you know, I really got to cut into like my creativity when it comes to like everything I do in the ring as well. It's like I'm so used to having 10 to 12 minute matches. It's like, oh yeah, but like how would you have the same match but then stretch out to 30 minutes as well?
Yeah, and it's funny too, because like not a lot of people think about that when they want that spot. Like a lot of people think like going into it like I want to eventually be in that main event spot. I want to eventually do that. And then when they get that first chance to do it, they're like, holy shit, I've got to go like 2-3 times the normal time that I am out there. And you don't realize how quickly you can go through your stuff if you rush through it. Yeah. It's sort of like it's got to be a learning curve for you, but luckily you're in that learning curve with someone who's very well, like really very well read in that area, and especially like you said, when you were tagging against the Velocities, who like you won't find a better tag team around the country than those two as well. So just walking into that had to ease you a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it's really good to see Ricky sort of get himself around the country now as well. Like honestly, it's been 5 years too late for seeing him in MCW and things like that. But you know, now he's there, he's absolutely killing it, and he's just showing why he's the best in the country. And I'm like, fuck yeah, that's my hero.
Yeah, we'll see. Like this weekend, you've got Bonza and James Graham. You know, it's pretty much. Are you guys on the Saturday or the Sunday?
So we're on the Sunday show.
You're on the Sunday. That makes sense. It's a rugby league game, so it might as well be on a Sunday.
Oh, exactly.
As
you got Grayson Waller on Saturday. You know, we can't. Yeah. Obviously, that's its own thing. That's probably the main attraction along there, and you don't want to sort of be. You don't want the footy player being buried underneath that. So you know, bring over the Sunday. You got to have a draw for both nights, essentially.
Yeah, I was wondering, mate, as a tragic para boy like I am, how much are you looking forward to punching a Canterbury player in the face? The first time I saw it, because I know that you and I are both para fans, first time I saw it was like James Graham, like, oh, how good's this? The only way it could have been better if it was Cliffy Lyons.
Oh no! Well, like I was too young for when Cliffy Lyons was dominating everyone, so I was
actually thinking about this. I was thinking about this today. For people that don't like rugby league, this is well over your head. But you're at an age where, like, I remember, like, I was alive for the 81, 83, 84, 86 grand finals. I was alive for that stuff. So I remember those teams. Those teams are like indelibly marked in my head as being the power. You would have grown up just getting to the dance and not quite winning the premiership. So getting a chance to punch a rival in the face the way you will this weekend, it's got to be good.
I got to say, like, for this, because my first game I ever watched was the 2001 grand final. That was the first game I ever watched of rugby league. Obviously, Parramatta lost that. So I never really grew up where there was massive rivalry between the Eels and Bulldogs. It was always there. Like, honestly, if I had the chance to punch a Melbourne Storm player in the face, I'll take that a million times over.
Yeah,
I'm just scared that James Graham's going to bite my ear off.
I had that conversation with one of the boys this weekend at Pro League because we were walking back from the shops, and they were like, "Oh, Melbourne and Penrith, who you got this weekend?" I said, "Like, I'm like, we don't like Penrith players, but I don't care who it is. Anyone against the Melbourne Storm, I want them to kill them."
I always say my favorite team is Para. My second favorite team is whoever's facing Melbourne.
Yeah, yeah. Can't help myself. I cannot get over that. So tell me, how are you feeling going into this weekend? Because it is like, I don't want to say it's a lot of pressure, but they've put you in a very enviable spot on the show. That's got to feel a little like gratifying because of the work you've been putting in over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I've been grinding at PWA since, for the last 5 years now. Getting this sort of spot along here, it feels like, holy shit, it feels like the hard work's sort of paying off a little bit. There is a little thing in the back of my mind. It's always like, oh, you're only getting this because you're Ricky. But I'm like, fuck it. Ricky also wanted to be with me. So, he picked me for a reason along here. But
honestly, really, like, if they wanted to, they could have put anyone with Ricky.
Yeah. So
like,
true.
if they wanted to, like, they could just go, yeah, we're going to grab, like, X. Like, Mick Moretti's going to come in and do it. Like, they could have easily done that, but they've done that. They've obviously put you in that spot because they know you can handle it.
Yeah, and we will handle it. Well, it's a good thing. It's only going to last 2 minutes anyway, so it's not going to be sweat of our backs.
So it's massive weekend coming up. PWA Colosseum. There are only standing room tickets left for the Sunday. Saturday is completely sold out now. You know the field for Colosseum. You got Jessica Troy, Charlie Evans, Robbie Thorpe, Kai Drake, Lena Cross, Tommy Knight, Big Fudge, Ricky Atami. Who do you think has got the best shot in winning Colosseum this year? Because it's a very wide open field.
I've got two picks. I got who I think's going to win, then I got who I really want to win. So who I think is going to win, unfortunately, I think Charlie Evans has this. She's just been killing it all year. This is her year. It's essentially her sword to lose, realistically. But who I really want to win, who I really, really want to see, I want to see Kai Drake win it. That man has been putting in work for the last, almost 10 years. Yeah. People don't realize how skillful he is. Like, a lot of people don't realize how skillful a lot of people in PWA are now, unless they're beyond that sort of glass ceiling. So everyone knows how good Ricky, Jess Troy, Charlie Evans, Robbie Eagles, Bonza, Moretti, like all those guys, because they've been on the main event scene for quite a long time, along with the Velocities. But then you have guys like Kai Drake, Michael Spencer, Reece Angel. You got all these guys that are just underneath that are just as good as these guys up here, but just haven't really been given the chance yet. And if Kai Drake given the chance, oh, mate, he's going to kill it.
We've got Robbie Thorpe in the first round, so that will be a very interesting match. It's good. Like, I'm of the same boat as you. When I saw that he got announced for that tournament, I was so happy for him because I'm like, this is a kid that again, like you said, has been working his ass off for years. I think him and Michael Spencer in MK Plus Ultra are underratedly one of the best tag teams in the country that never got a chance. They don't get a chance to show because I don't know if they try to travel or if they just don't travel, and that's why they're not known further. But if they did, they would be getting that same buzz that the Velocities get, that the PWA get, because I think they're an amazing tag team. So it's good to see him getting that shot on. Like, let's face it, this is a thing that it's going to be on YouTube, but it's going to have a worldwide audience just for the fact that Grayson Waller's on the show. So people are going to tune in just to see that, and to be able to see all of you guys be able to work as well. That's an amazing thing. So hopefully he gets the flowers and all of that thing that you and I both kind of want him to have. Mate, thank you so much for joining me. Again, massive fan. I've been a massive fan for you for a few years now, since I first started you and Jack coming out as Back Pain. Absolutely love that tag team. I've been really looking forward to seeing your growth from after that. And this weekend, I can't wait to see what you do, mate. Again, Ticketek, if you want tickets to go and see it on the Sunday. The Sunday's the only place you can get tickets for. If you don't live in Sydney, if you're not in that area, it's going to be on YouTube, on the PWA YouTube channel. So subscribe to that and you guys will be able to watch live the best tournament in Australian wrestling over the years. Like, best 2-day tournament that Australian wrestling puts on is Colosseum every year. I've always said that. I always will. Mate, for the people at home that aren't watching this and they can't see what your socials are, how can they follow what you're doing on socials, mate?
Well, my socials are pretty easy. Instagram and X, all the same. It's Backman Lex. You can find me on Facebook as well, but that's just the same as Instagram now. Like, who the fuck uses Facebook anymore for anything? I'm also on TikTok as well, at Backman_Lex as well, but I'll probably post there once every 6 months, so don't even bother. And honestly, like, if you want to follow, I don't need your followers. I don't need anyone else following me. Okay? I don't want anyone else following me, so all I want you to do is just watch our stuff, buy our merch, and give me money. That's all we want. We want money, not followers.
Alrighty then, there you go. Money, not followers. So we will be back here at WrestleRate Australia on Thursday, where we will be reviewing Colosseum, because it'll be after a Colosseum by then. So join us then. Until then, Todd Eastman, Backman, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys on Thursday for WrestleRate Australia, making chicken salad.
Yeah, no dramas. Thanks for having me, mate.
Trying to make chicken salad out of chicken shit, and it was just awful.
I've turned chicken salad into chicken shit. I will continue to do so.
Here I was, blaming AEW for feeding you chicken shit, knowing you mindless millennials would be eating it up as if it were chicken salad, when it's really been your fault all along.